And we are back. Episode 16 of the TJ Martino podcast. Hello, thank you everybody for listening. Man, great numbers we're getting. I'm very happy with the results. I know it's been a little bit. It's been since the 1st of February, since our last episode. Studio has been getting packed here, I'll tell you what. But luckily I was able to get a lot of time blocked out here towards the end of the month and into March, so we'll have some time to drop some more episodes. First of all, though, I want to thank you guys, listeners. Holy cow, I checked the global numbers, and I have listeners from across the globe, which is pretty crazy. I want to thank people from Canada. Yeah, the Canadians out there, my Canucks. Australia, never been out there, but I've always wanted to go. Mexico, yeah, shout out to my Mexicans out there listening. The United Kingdom, holy cow, across the pond, people are listening. Chile, we got listeners in Chile. Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, the Bahamas, the beautiful Bahamas, and of course Israel. Thank you to my Israeli folks. Yeah, really cool. Also, another thing, I think we're at 75 ratings on Apple Podcasts. So if you have Apple Podcasts, please go there, write a review. Go to my page, scroll down, and write a review. There's a little button you can click, and then give me the 5-star rating and write a little comment if you got something to say. I'm at like 75. I want to get to 100. That's the goal right now. So, keep doing that. Also listen to Evan's album Thief of the Night and his new single Lucky on all streaming platforms. Evan was on episode 13, so listen to that. Also keep sending beats and stuff. I might want to still do that, I don't know. And shout out to Ian Ellsworth for the new logo. It looks incredible. I'm so happy with the way it turned out. We worked pretty hard on it. So yeah, that's another thing. And 5 stars, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Very, very long-awaited episode today.
Hell yeah.
With a very good friend of mine, Noah Kaufman, in the studio today to break down our picks for our top 10 movies of 2019. First of all, though, I want to talk about 2019 as a whole when it comes to movies. Thoughts on the year?
I mean, first let me say, long-time listener, first-time guest, happy to be here. Thank you for having me, my friend. This has been a long-awaited thing.
Yes, we've been talking about this for some time.
TJ and I share a love for movies, so we're always talking about it. So I could talk about this for hours and hours. But 2019, good year for movies, would you say?
Yes. So early 2019 was concerning because 2018 for me was one of the worst years of the decade.
I totally agree.
So early 2019, there was a lot of really disappointing ones. I mean, not as bad as 2018 when it came to disappointing, but into the spring, we started to get sprinkles of some good movies, obviously, some that we will talk about. And then the summer season was pretty rough, honestly, for 2019. Yeah. I mean, for the mainstream big budget movies, like the Men in Black movie was pretty bad, and the X-Men and a lot of those movies just flopped. And it was kind of a concerning year. But once August and September hit, it really picked up steam and became one of the best years of the decade for movies. I mean, it really did.
I completely agree. I mean, you're totally right. Like, initially, there were a lot of movies that were, not measuring up to the hype that they were supposed to get. Yes. And I feel like 2018 especially, we're both Marvel fans, and I feel like there's your movie criteria, and then if you grew up with superheroes and you love those stuff, then you just appreciate those movies no matter what.
Totally.
But even those, didn't measure up. Like Dark Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
That movie was awful, and it gets into the argument similar to Birds of Prey had this problem where the name is different than the brand name. So Birds of Prey wasn't anything relating to DC, and people didn't know what it was, and they had to change the name.
Yeah, because people were just I don't understand this really at all.
I mean, I would tell people let's go see Birds of Prey, and they would say even good big movie buffs, what is that movie? You have to say Harley Quinn.
Yeah, exactly. I think the common person didn't really get that whole gist with Birds of Prey. I still haven't seen it yet, so I don't know if I haven't heard terrible things about it, so I guess that's a good thing. But going back to 2019, I think the fact that so many super hyped movies kind of the fact that they flopped kind of opened the door for a lot more independent movies to flourish. And we saw that this year as kind of a resurgence of like independent films. I mean, there was a lot this year that had a lot of buzz. I mean, and we'll talk about them
definitely
as we go.
And I feel like that can get into the whole like the whole streaming, how like all these streaming platforms are changing just like the movie industry, television, because in the past an independent film could be a great independent film, but they didn't have the reach. Like they weren't able to reach out and just show,
or the platform
to show people. And now like an independent film can win Best Picture. I mean, like I guess Parasite you probably have to describe as an independent film.
Totally. And like I think Netflix and, like you said, the streaming services have definitely opened the door to the accessibility of these movies. And I think, you know, you hear the buzz. You're like, oh, Marriage Story. Like, I heard that's a great movie. Oh, it's on Netflix. There it is. Yep. I can watch it like that. Because, like, if you hadn't heard of that movie before, you would have to seek it out in theaters or rent it on VOD. And at that point, it's like, you know. It scared a lot of the casual people that wouldn't usually be watching that kind of movie to go out there and watch it. So I think the streaming services have a lot to do with it.
I mean, there's also like The Irishman, for example, another good example of this. I saw The Irishman in theaters because they had.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah, I think you saw it with me actually.
Did we see it together?
I think we saw it together.
Yeah, we did.
We totally
did. Yes, we did see it together. Holy cow.
Like they had the select release for that, and then they released it on Netflix to everyone. And that movie, like that was an over 3-hour movie.
Yeah, it was an experience.
It was a commitment. Like, don't get me wrong, we're movie guys. I loved seeing it in theaters.
Me too.
But I feel like it appeals to like my dad, for example. He was not trying to go sit and
exactly
in 3 hours, and he's old and those like uncomfortable chairs. But they released it on Netflix. And I sent him a link where they broke the timing out into 4 episoes. So he watched it like a TV series, like a miniseries, and he said he loved it. It was so much better. We could probably post the link somewhere for like it cuts it into like evenly parts just based on what's going on, I think.
The same thing with, I showed my dad The Irishman, and he really liked it. But it was so funny when we saw it in theaters, the Netflix logo came up on the big screen, and that was like the first reckoning of being like, wow, this is really happening. Like, Netflix is really going after it, because Netflix for a long time was just known as like having really bad movies. Like,
I mean,
they've actually, like, since they have a budget now, they've stepped their game up, and they're actually making good movies too.
Well, so a big thing that goes into that, which I actually know just from like, I'm a marketing major, business student, and like we do case studies with stuff like this. Netflix, a big way that they're able to get all this original content is they pay studio houses pretty much. Yeah. So they instead of like when you hear like in-house, like it's made by Netflix, but they're really paying like studios that would typically be making movies or TV shows for either like cable or for movies that are going to be regularly released. They're going straight to the source, and they're pretty much saying to these studios, here's the money, make the movie however you'd like it, and we'll put it on Netflix. They kind of give them the freedom to do whatever they want.
And I think that's the thing that like kind of got Scorsese on board with them to make it. I mean, I know he had a lot of trouble funding the movie. I mean, obviously with all the visual effects and stuff, and we'll talk about The Irishman a little bit later, but like I think that the fact that Netflix gave him a chance and said, you know what, you're an amazing filmmaker, you've made some of the best movies of all time, like, you know, and you're with these actors that are also great, and you have this story, like, we're gonna give it to you, and we're gonna give you the funding, and we're gonna get this movie made. And I think I don't think the streaming services are all that bad, because I think they kind of get a bad rap as being like made for TV movies. You know, like I've heard that argument that like they're not real movies because they weren't shown on the big screen. But even though a lot of them are, so I mean it's kind of a tough subject, but at the same time, great year for 2019. I was pretty surprised towards the December when I got around there. I was like, damn, like,
no, definitely.
Looking back, I was like, there's some great ones. Yeah. But so we're gonna go off over these. So are yours ranked, right? Yours are ranked, or are they not? If not, we can just go through them because mine are ranked.
So how about you want to go through yours, and because my opinion is we were talking about like ranking our top 10 movies of 2019. I am a movie lover, and I find it difficult to rank like one movie one, one movie two, rather than just putting them all in like a top 10 bundle. Like I have difficulty doing that.
Differentiating.
So
Totally.
I could probably like make a quick order, but I have them in no order.
Okay. Then here, we'll do this. We'll do this. I'll go through my list, and any of them that match, we can talk about.
I agree.
And any of them that, and any ones that are on your list that I don't have on mine, we can talk about at the end.
All right. Sounds good.
So, how I wanted to do this was, I'm going to start off with my honorable mentions. These are movies that I really enjoyed. I have 4 of them here that I really enjoyed, and some of them were surprising, some of them were just expected, and I think they're great movies, but just couldn't fit on my list because these other 10 are just did so much more for me. My first one is Crawl. Have you ever heard of this movie?
I have not.
Okay, this came out last year in the summer. This was like a underrated. It was a movie that had a lot of commercials, but like it looked very cheesy. It looked very bad. It looked like a very bad horror movie. But I stumbled upon it after the summer in the fall, and I watched it, and I was blown away at how entertaining this movie was. I mean, it's basically about a girl that like goes to the University of Florida. She's a swimmer, and then like a hurricane comes and hits Florida bad, and like she goes back to her house to like try and save her dad from the hurricane, and then a bunch of alligators and crocodiles get loose, and it's just this entrapment, claustrophobic horror movie that I was like, this is gonna be really bad. Like I was just throwing it on. It was before we were going out. I was pre-gaming, you know, just throwing something on, and I just was so into it. By the end of it, I was
83
like,
on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I was so shocked because I was like, this just looks so stupid, and it is, but like it knows what it is, and it's not trying to be anything more than just a fun horror movie.
Great. All right. So like, I have not seen this movie, but I love, that's such a good comment, and I want to like jump into one of the movies that was on my list just because it relates so well to that. Did you see Yesterday?
I was going to mention that as one of my honorable mentions.
Okay, great. Perfect segment, because I feel like Yesterday was like, you know what you're getting into. Like, it's a light, feel-good movie, just talking about the Beatles and their music, and it did everything that it wanted to, but they didn't try and overstep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, movies like that, they kind of try and be more deep. Where
heavy-handed.
It was like this guy, like he wasn't struggling with life. He wasn't addicted to drugs or something. He just couldn't make it in the movie industry, you know, like
music industry,
or in the music industry. It wasn't like this guy's life is about to end, you know. Like it seemed a little more, just like a lighthearted movie that wasn't trying to be too much.
Yeah, and I like the, you know, obviously, I never really grew up on the Beatles until like recently. I stumbled upon them, and like, but this movie like does a really good job of like, it's a really cool concept. Like, what if one of the most beloved music groups never existed, you know, and you're the only one that knows about them, and the idea of, you know, making your own path, but at the same time like having to, you know, having all of this amazing music at your disposal essentially.
Yeah, and it's also, I feel like it's like that their music is timeless.
Yes.
In a sense.
Yes.
Like, if it came out tomorrow, I mean, I don't know how true it is in every case, but I feel like for the most part, like Beatles music is so catchy, and it just like so happy-go-lucky, speaks to everyone, feels the way they feel at some point, depending on the song.
I thought it was a really sweet movie, and it for me though, I mean, I do think the relationship aspect was a little bit just unfulfilled, but overall I thought the movie was pretty good, and it was an honorable mention. Excuse me. The next one is Jordan Peele's Us. This came out in February.
Oh yeah. Very
tough movie to dissect. But I thought it was, I mean, although I think Get Out is a better written movie and a better movie overall, I thought this one did better with the horror aspect.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like the thing that made Get Out such a big deal is that you didn't see the horror aspect coming. Where, like, Us, you kind of, like, even from the trailer, like, you kind of knew, like,
what you were getting yourself into.
Basic premise. You know what I mean? Where, like, Get Out, you have no idea what's happening until you're like a quarter through the movie, at least.
Yeah, and I think the themes in Get Out were a little bit heavier and it hit a little bit harder than in this one, because this one just was kind of a little bit more abstract.
Yeah.
But it's definitely one that I need to see again. My sister, she personally didn't love the movie, but I did. I liked it.
I love Jordan Peele.
I think he has so much potential to be one of the best horror directors.
Yeah, and he's such a unique, like...
Yeah.
But you're so right. Like, Get Out is talking about, like racism and, like, class separation, where Get Out is really kind of like an abstract...
Yeah, Us, you mean?
I mean, Us is
Yeah.
more of, like, an abstract, creepy, like, you see yourself being... like, but it's not yourself in a weird...
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah, but there is definitely some like political undertones to it, but
because it's Jordan Peele.
Yeah, but yeah, I liked it. Next one is Jojo Rabbit.
Oh my god!
Another honorable mention.
Let's go. Honorable mention.
This is an honorable mention.
Wow! Wow!
This one really was fighting for number 10. This one and another one were really fighting for number 10. But I love the movie. I do. I do. It's just like, for me, I don't know how much I'm gonna go back and watch it again. But I mean, for such a ballsy concept to make it work as well as it did, I mean, just at face value, you're like, how does this movie exist? But then, like, when you actually watch it, you're like, you really see like what Taika Waititi was going for with this, and I thought it was a really brilliant movie.
Yeah.
I put a lot of stock in it in my Oscars predictions, and a lot of it didn't pan out.
Yeah.
Granted, my Oscar predictions this year were a botch, to say the least, and we'll get to that, but. What did you think about it? Like,
so I love Taika Waititi, and I actually
Same.
followed that movie like for years. Like, they announced it I think 3 years ago, and I knew about it then. I was like waiting for this movie, because I felt like Thor Ragnarok, he did something so unique. Like, he took an old character and made it new, made it more fun,
and more
like,
interesting,
more interesting. So I felt like it was like, he's a name that you have heard, but this was like his first attempt at doing something on his own after a proven track record.
Right.
And I loved it. I just thought, I'm a Jew, so like I feel like that definitely played into it a little bit, because like, but actually like the stereotypical Holocaust movie does not have the emotion, like there's happy
and
moments,
the personality
in JoJo,
that
the
this
personality,
movie has,
exactly. Like, I've already seen Jojo Rabbit twice just because I loved it, but I feel like some other Holocaust movies are very sad, very depressing. World War II movies.
It's a tough subject. It's a very tough subject.
It's a tough subject
to put across on film.
And he does something so unique, which is that he's making fun of them, but also like you kind of understand where they went wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
like this little kid doesn't know any better.
He's so naive.
He's so naive.
And with all of the propaganda and of the times and this, you know, violent hate speech and things like that were going around that time, like, it was hard not to be, you know, influenced by it. And especially when you're a kid, like, you don't know any better.
Yeah, you have no
idea.
Like,
it was really interesting to see them tackle such a I mean, this movie had so much that could have gone wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And,
oh, my God. Yeah.
The fact that it didn't, I admire. And
well, a lot of people don't know that Taika Waititi is Jewish. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
His full... I looked this up the other day. His full name is Taika Waititi is not his actual name.
Yeah, it's a stage name?
His name is Taika David Cohen.
Oh.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that is.
So, like, he doesn't look like a Jew, but he I think that's why, like... He probably felt the need because...
yeah, what better person to make the movie,
yeah, exactly.
Honestly.
I mean, like, the movie, I think a lot of these Holocaust World War II movies, when they're depicting, like, the Gestapo or all these soldiers, like, they go the dark and ominous, like, these scary, intimidating people in these big green and black suits, where in this movie, like, they're still scary and intimidating, but it's almost like making fun of how stupid they are.
Yeah.
And it gives a different tone to it. It's like, this is something I've seen 1,000 times in such a different way I can't stop watching.
Yeah, it's incredibly tongue-in-cheek, which, I mean... Yeah, it's a great story, and I was really, really trying to put this on my list. It was fighting.
I think as a movie, though, like, it's a great movie, but there's so much kid acting in it that it's not, like they don't use Margot Robbie as much as they could. I mean, not Margot Robbie. Scarlett Johansson. Like, they don't use her as much as they could.
Yeah.
Like, she's kind of...
But she's so good in the movie.
She's so good.
Last honorable mention, Midsummer.
Midsummer.
I've
heard about this movie. I did not see this movie, actually.
This movie has grown on me a lot since I saw it in theaters. I walked out when I saw it in theaters and I was like, what the hell did I just watch? Like, it's very hypnotizing.
Yeah.
Very beautiful visuals. It's shot in like Sweden or whatever. And it's this crazy horror movie that, I mean, it's not that scary, but like it's very uneasy and very uncomfortable. You feel very uncomfortable. You know something bad's about to happen. And it's made by Ari Aster, who's the director of Hereditary, which was my favorite movie of 2018. I mean, that movie just effed me up. So I was so on board to see this, and it lived up. I mean, it was very like creepy and weird, and if you're into like cool visuals and that kind of stuff, it's definitely one to check out.
Definitely.
Number 10.
Number 10. Here we are.
Ford versus Ferrari.
Okay. Great movie. Great start.
I saw this movie, obviously, to prepare for the Oscars. I watch every Best Picture nominee, and this was one that I had missed when it came out, so I was able to check it out before the Oscars, and, I mean, it's so good. It's so good. James Mangold made a hell of a movie. I'm a big fan of James Mangold. Obviously, Logan, I love that movie to death.
Yeah.
Logan, and this was such a cool direction to go in with an awesome story. I mean, Christian Bale should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor for this movie. He was great. Damon is great. I love the racing scenes, the drama between those two characters as they're just trying to, and it's the inspirational little guy versus the corporate, conglomerate. So it was like really cool to see that kind of play out.
No, I love that movie. I mean, I think that it got a lot. Personally, you're going to hate me for saying this. I thought it was great. I think it got a lot more buzz than it deserved just because Damon and Christian Bale in one movie. That's getting a lot of buzz. And I thought they both did well as, like, with the script that they were given. I just kind of felt like the story, it's true, so it's kind of like they can't, either you go with the absolute true story, show the events as they happen, or you kind of, like, take your own interpretation, the director's interpretation, and I felt like it could have been benefited something like that, just because like it kind of drops off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like an abrupt, like literally like a car just like stopping at like short skirt. But don't get me wrong, phenomenal acting, highly recommend.
Very entertaining movie.
Thomas Shelby's a genius too. The history into just like that movie itself is awesome.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
People hear that name, they don't know what it means. Thomas Shelby Cobra, Shelby Mustang. Like people, I feel like people don't associate, like, it's a very familiar name in America, but people don't know that there was a guy actually.
Yeah, and they don't know the story.
The story of like how he got there, how he like had health issues and could not race, and I mean this story, this movie kind of does that.
Definitely,
justice.
yeah, totally, and yeah, like you said, Damon and Bale are amazing, and I'm a big James Mangold fan too. I mean, the editing, obviously, I think it won Best Editing at the Oscars, which was rightfully so. I mean, it was a great movie. So, number 9, Rocket Man. The Elton John biopic that came out in May
with Taron
Egerton.
Egerton, yes.
I watched this one again the other day. It was the first time I'd seen it since it came out, because I knew it was fighting to get on this list, and I really like this movie a lot. I think it does a really good job of like diving into not only the story of Elton John, who's one of the most influential artists of the 1970s and 80s and 90s and present day.
Yeah.
So I mean, he has had such longevity, and I love how honest this movie was. Like, and although I know it's not 100% accurate, but I mean, Elton John was a producer on the movie, so obviously he gave it the okay.
Yeah.
But I love like how they have these like crazy dream sequences throughout the movie to kind of give you this look into Elton's psyche at certain points in his life. I mean, because there's just a lot going on with him, with the addiction and the closet homosexuality, and a lot of that, played into, how he became the person he was, and is, and it's.
And you're so right. Like with those dream sequences, like some movies where it's a biopic, they're telling a story. I feel like there's a tendency just to go like beginning, middle, end.
Yeah.
Where this movie kind of just took that and threw it in the garbage. Like it starts in the end, it goes back, it goes forward.
Yeah.
And it's more of like it's using. Like the director is using all of the tools that he has to tell the story rather than just showing it in order. It gives it more weight when you see him at his absolute worst and then see how he got there and then see him eventually like get himself together and prevail. I feel like that's like a great way to show.
I think the thing that's the biggest shame about this movie was the fact that like when it was released, because I mean Bohemian Rhapsody I thought was one of the most overrated movies of that year.
It was just a shame because they're so similar.
Yes, I mean same director, Dexter Fletcher. I thought he did a way better job with this movie. I thought Edgerton was better than Rami Malek personally, performance-wise. I mean, because Edgerton was singing a lot of this stuff. Rami Malek had, was lip syncing a lot of those. And I mean, Rami Malek is amazing in that movie. I said that since day one. He was definitely the best part of that movie.
Yeah.
And definitely deserved the Oscar. But had this come out first, I think Taron definitely would have gotten at least a nomination.
I totally
I think he got robbed this year.
Do you know how Taron got the job in the first place?
No.
Was put on the movie. So long story short, if anyone has ever seen Kingsman 2.
Yeah, I've seen the first one. I've never got around to the second one, but I really like the first one.
First one's great. I think they're just like fun action, like kind of like a James Bond with like a funny side to it. So I love those movies, or the two movies. And they're coming out with another one. But in the second movie, Elton John is kidnapped and he plays himself. So it's literally Elton John in the movie with Taron Egerton, and they met on the set, became like good friends, and Elton said like, there's a script for my life's movie. I want you to play me. So that's how Taron got put on to Rocket Man.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I know now him and Elton have a great relationship and have done music together and obviously won the Oscar for Best Song. I mean, that was pretty much a lock.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But, I mean, it was really cool to see just the relationships that Elton had, whether it was romantically or friendships with Bernie Taupin and his upbringing and all of that. It was cool representation. It was a really rewatchable movie. The costumes are great. The acting is amazing. Taron should have been nominated.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, great movie. Number 8. This may be a little bit controversial. Parasite, the Best Picture winner of this year.
Okay. All right. So I'm happy to hear you say that because I have a sad thing to admit. I have not gotten around to get to see Parasite.
Okay.
But I feel like this could be an advantage for us right now. So I've heard from everyone, I'm sure you'll say, everybody should like stop what they're doing and watch Parasite. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it needs a hard sell because to see a movie in all subtitles in Korean, although it still won Best Picture, like for people our age especially, like it's kind of a hard sell to get them to get outside their comfort zone.
Totally. I'll give you the hard sell. I love this movie. Okay, personally, I want to say that first. I mean, I heard about this movie in like August or September, and I remember my roommates were like, I'm gonna go see a movie, and they're like, what are you gonna go see? And I'm like, this movie called Parasite. Like I was reading online about it, like how it's getting a lot of buzz, and like I'm like, they're like, well, what's it about? I'm like, well, it's a Korean film, and they all said nope. And I was like,
yep.
And I was
exactly.
like, all right, looks like I'm seeing this one myself. I go and I sit down and I watch this movie, and I mean, within about 30 minutes, I didn't even notice the subtitles. I mean, the language barrier is probably the reason this isn't as high on my list as it is for other people.
Yeah.
Because just for the rewatchability of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just being completely honest. Like, I don't know how much I'm going to go back and watch this movie just because of the language barrier.
No, it's hard.
But
that's the reality of it.
What an amazing idea, an amazing script. And, I mean, honestly, I was a fool to not pick this for Best Picture in my predictions. Thinking back on it in hindsight, because personally I picked 1917 to win Best Picture, but I did pick Bong Joon-ho to win Best Director. I said that was a lock.
Okay.
My roommate bet on it. I said, because he's like, what should I bet on for the Oscars? I said, Bong Joon-ho is a freaking lock for Best Director. But I said, what's going to happen is 1917 is going to split it with them. They're going to win Best Picture, and Parasite is going to win Best Director. So when Parasite won, I was like,
damn.
I mean, I was like, how? I mean, but I didn't think 1917 was a lock to win. but I said it was like probably I think I said like a 60% chance, 60-40 was I think what I said. So I knew Parasite had an outside chance, but I was just like, I don't know if they're gonna give an international film Best Picture.
Yep.
But they did, and I mean I don't think they were wrong. It's not there wasn't a wrong decision. There wasn't a wrong decision either way, but I know why they did it, and it's because they're like now they can open the door. I mean, I feel like they've been trying to do this for a while to give like a foreign film buzz. But there just wasn't one good enough. Like, I think they wanted Roma to be this movie really bad, but Roma for me I thought was incredibly boring. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But this was so good. I mean, the story, it's funny at times. It's heartwarming, it's heartbreaking, it's very dark towards the end, and the twists and turns. I mean, this is an amazing script, an amazing concept, just brought together by a director that is so now being beloved for the reasons,
rightfully so.
So. It's an amazing movie, and I think if you have or even thinking about seeing it, I think you should at least just see it one time.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit I've had a busy week. It's been on my schedule to watch it. And I'm definitely watching it before this weekend's over. I'll tell you that much.
You should definitely watch it.
But I feel like it's a shame because it's almost like it's great that it won Best Picture, but it's harder to get people to watch it because it's
because of the language barrier.
And like even something like Narcos, like Spanish or French is a lot closer to English than Korean. So like you could kind of like people took Spanish or French in high school or something. Like you can kind of pick up on that where like 9 times out of 10, if you have no Korean descent or don't know anyone who's Korean, it's a very foreign language for you.
Like I said, but I mean. I mentioned
you should still get out.
Yeah, I talked about this movie.
Hard sell.
I talked about this movie on this podcast before. I don't remember what episode, but I'm saying the same thing that I said then. It's an incredibly unique movie, and it's nothing like I've ever seen before. And for that, and 2019 to be saying something like that is pretty impressive. And I can't wait to see what new movie Bong Joon-ho makes next.
Yeah,
I'm in.
Yeah, definitely.
Number 7, Avengers Endgame.
Okay.
I watched this one last night again.
I've seen it so many times.
This was the funny story. This was the first time I had seen Endgame. Last night was the first time I had seen it since it came out.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Good for you. I feel like it's reflected in your honorable mentions and your top 10. I feel like you've been branching out a little because don't we know that the Avenger people, the Marvel people, can just sit and watch. If you put on an Iron Man 3, I feel obligated to just
I'll watch
watching
it. I like it. I like that movie. I think it's kind of gets a bad rap. I mean, there's definitely issues with it, but I mean, I think Downey as a whole made that movie watchable. But same with 2. I mean, Downey definitely makes that movie.
No, I feel like it's like the middle ones get like kind of boring because it's like they're talking about this technology getting better and better and better, and then like in Endgame it's just like absurd. Yeah. Where if you watch the first one, like they're like the Iron Man one, like for example, his technology in the suit is not nearly as complicated. It seems more like possible in a sense. So like you hit him in the arm a couple times, like his arm like pieces can snap off, where like in Endgame he's like pulling stuff out of nowhere, and like it's like this crazy technology that like they're showing the progression of it, but I feel like he seems more mortal in the first one, which is ironic.
Very. But I mean, for what this movie had to do, I mean, we all when it came out, there was gonna be 3 hours. Usually with 3-hour movies, I'm like, that's a long movie, but this earned it. I mean,
I was ready
20
for
movies for the build up, and Infinity War's still my favorite of the series as a whole. I think just the balls that movie had at the end, I was like, holy cow, like the snap and everything, like, and I just love the chase of all the Infinity Stones. But this movie did a really good job of like, it goes by pretty damn fast for being a 3-hour movie. Like,
no question.
It's like that. Like, and it's pretty impressive for, to be able to juggle all the characters and all the storylines and make it all work. And they did a great job with that. I mean, the Captain America stuff is so well done. The Tony Stark stuff, obviously those 2 characters have had a lot of conflict and throughout the series.
Civil War too, like the way they did that was so like,
good.
Like I feel like people have issues with like the Marvel movies, and yes, like we are like we appreciate them from like there's the movie appreciation, and then there's the just superhero appreciation, I think. But they really do a good job of taking, like, it's an absurd idea, like people have superpowers, so they take like what's an issue someone could have in the logic, and like they turn that into a movie. So like in a bunch of the early Avenger movies, like they're destroying everything. Every fight like destroys every little thing. So like naturally, Civil War comes along, and it's like you can't just destroy cities. Like there are repercussions for the actions. So like they're kind of just silencing all the people who are like saying that doesn't make sense or there's a plot hole. Like they are so good, and if you rewatch any of these movies, you will see all the little Easter eggs and stuff that they leave. It's crazy.
I mean, hats off to the Russo brothers and Kevin Feige and all the people involved, Marcus and McFeely, who wrote the script for this. I mean, just what a task to sit down, and with so much expectations, they delivered. And Endgame was everything that I wanted Star Wars to be. I mean, this Marvel series is everything that I wanted the new Star Wars movies to be.
Yeah, it's a shame.
And there is not, unfortunately, Rise of Skywalker did not make this list.
I'm not
for
surprised.
Multiple reasons. But you can check out my preview review where I break that down. But as for this one though, I mean the action, the visual effect. This should have won Best Visual Effects, by the way, at the Oscars. I mean, 1917. From a visual effects standpoint, I mean, from a production design and all of that, and editing and all that, I get. But like visual effects, like, I mean, that movie doesn't have
I totally
many,
agree.
and I think this would have been a good way to just congratulate Marvel as a whole.
Yeah,
and saying like, okay, we're gonna give Endgame Best Visual Effects to represent all of the movies in this series,
all of the effects that they've given.
Yes, and all of the amazing work from the visual effects departments at Disney.
Yeah.
And I mean, this movie was beautifully done. It looks amazing, and the action, everything, the scope, the stories. I mean, even the ending of the movie with Cap, and Peggy Carter, like that whole thing was so well done. I was like, God damn, like this is effing me up right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Tony Stark stuff, so good, so good. And
I really don't think they could have done anything differently with that.
The thing I loved that they did, last point was Thanos. And how he was just like his ideology, like once he learns that what he did, wiping out half of the population was wrong, in a sense, because he's like, you know what, like people are not going to be able to move on like I thought they were. So in that case, I'm going to destroy everything.
Everybody
is getting wiped out, and I'm starting from level 1. And instead of trying to start from level 50, I'm starting from level 1. Like, because the personal attachment to the people that were lost obviously screwed up society. Yeah. And I love that idea. And, I was like in the theater when he, gives his little spiel to Captain America and Iron Man and Thor when they're about to fight. I was like, this is so good. I was like, I love this.
Yeah, it's smart. I feel like they took like the stereotypical, like, I'm gonna kill like 80% of the world and leave the other 20 just to live. Like, there's plot holes in that. Like there's holes in that argument. Like obviously it's a crazy person that would even think that way, but like it's in enough movies that it's a continuing idea.
Yeah.
And I feel like they really took that and just said like, no, that's not, like, this is an example of if you do that, like people are still gonna rise above. Like they're not gonna forget that, like, just
they're not,
most of the world is gone and just move on. Like it's you can't just, and like Captain America says, he's like some people move on, we don't. Like
it's hard to when half of the population is missing. Like, and I think I love that whole thing in Thanos. Like, just what a great villain and what an awesome. I mean, obviously, Infinity Wars I like more than this just because of the idea and Thanos being like the main character of the movie. It's like that was the biggest problem with these Marvel movies, was the villains were pretty weak, for the most part. So Thanos being so good made it all worth it. So number 6. You're good. 1917.
Okay. See, I'm happy this came up because I want to hear what you think about 1917. I think this is a controversial movie in terms of, I think it's good. I think it's so overhyped. I liked it. I mean, I guess I'm just going to go and give my opinion right now. Like,
you go first.
I liked it. I did not love it. I think that, like, in terms of the film direction, like, the way it was made, like, they're saying that's, like, a big advantage to it. And, like, that's and I see like in like just like the shots, just the overall aesthetic of the movie, like you can see there's something unique going on there, but I don't think it's nearly as unique as they make it out to be. Like that whole single shot thing, like I don't think it makes as big of a difference, if that makes sense. Like it looks good. I don't think it looks as crazy as people make it out to be. Tell me what you think about that.
Well, I think the thing is, like, yes, this isn't the first movie that's done this where they make everything look like a single shot, but they've never done it to this scale in a war film. Yeah. And just some of the shots, you're just like, how did you do this? And I mean, the acting, this movie, I compare it a little bit to Dunkirk, Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk, and I like this one more. And I think, I mean, even though Dunkirk is a World War II movie and this is a World War I movie,
I love Dunkirk.
I think this one just had more personality to it, more character to it than Dunkirk, while still having those really tense scenes of, you know, escaping some crazy, you know, whether, you know, the scene where they're running through the shafts or whatever. Really, really exciting. And I mean, the two characters are amazing, really, really good. And the story, it's just this, because World War I to me is just so fascinating because it was like the beginning of modern warfare, like as we know it, like, and people weren't prepared for the scope of weaponry and artillery and
they really know they're going into
and battles. Like they had no idea what they were getting themselves into, and kids like younger than us were going into battle, and it, you know, and that's what this movie is like showing, like, and to give them this kind of responsibility to go run across no man's land to some place to deliver a message to stop this attack. It's so, and they, like, you know, you put a time crunch on it. You put a time crunch on it, and then make it this one long continuous shot with these beautiful scoping shots of, you know, it's just, it was so enthralling to watch. I was so into it. And I mean, I get your argument in the sense of like it does kind of, it's just it is another war movie. It does see, you know, from a story standpoint.
Yeah, I think it stems also from the fact that, like, with all the amazing special effects nowadays, like the effects in it, they're not really effects. Like it's happening. Like that,
it's
like,
just great filmmaking.
It's just great filmmaking. So I feel like we're all kind of, especially me, like we're used to all these special effects and things looking a certain way, and almost like absurd way in movies. Where this like looked like that but was real. Like you can't, like a good CGI, you can't tell what's real and what's fake. And this could have been fantastic CGI, but it wasn't. It was just real stuff going on. Yeah. So I will give it that. I do think it was a good movie. I just thought it was, besides from all the aesthetic, like the plot itself, I just wasn't a huge fan. But I think it goes from person to person.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I get it. And but for me, it works so well, and I was like, oh man, like this is because I had heard so much buzz about it. Yeah. And eventually, when I got around to seeing it in theaters, I was so into it. So yeah, 1917. We're going to take a quick commercial break here. Can you believe it? I have commercials.
TJ Martino commercials.
Yep, we'll be back. One of the most challenging parts of having a busy lifestyle is finding time to go to the grocery store. I mean, seriously, you have to drive to the grocery store, park in the busy parking lot, go into the store, get a cart, then go aisle to aisle finding all of your different items. And then as soon as you have all of that done, you got to wait in line in the checkout lane while some person in front of you has 400 boxes of cereal. And then as soon as you're finally up, you have to check out, load everything into your car, and then bring it all home and unload it. It's just such a process. And there's so many other things I'd rather be doing than going to the grocery store. Luckily, there's Instacart. Instacart has unlimited grocery delivery for one low monthly fee. They provide hand-selected items by shoppers based on your preferences and deliver your items to your door in as fast as an hour. Instacart also highlights deals to help you save money. Following the link in the show's notes lets Instacart know that I sent you and helps support the show. And we're back from that commercial. We're back.
After a word from our proud sponsor.
Yeah. So we're going to go on to number 5.
Number 5, getting down the list.
Yep. Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse. I
love this movie.
It's my
so
goodness.
Funny and weird and like quirky, and you'll never see a movie exactly like that movie. I just thought it was so good.
This is, I mean, just one of the most strange and bizarre but yet so like encapsulating movies that I've seen in a long to be released recently.
It catches you.
Yes, and its presentation. I mean, it's a black and white movie shot with that weird aspect ratio that's like a big square. Like it cuts the edges off of like the shot, and it's just a square.
Yeah,
like, it's shot like a movie from 1930.
But it's weird. Like it's a weird version of black and white. Like you're totally right. Like there's something more going on than just black and white. Because I feel like that can kind of turn people off too. Like this movie, it's definitely a little quirky, weird, but the filming of it, especially with the black and white, is so beautiful.
Oh, it's so good.
With the lighthouse, like just the reflection of like in black and white things that aren't necessarily dark or light, like in between. They they just look very cool.
I'm a big fan of black and white movies, especially when they're done well like this. Yeah. And I mean, Robert Pattinson, Willem Dafoe, amazing. I mean, and the dialogue in this movie, I mean, is so. I mean, I love Robert Eggers is becoming one of my favorite directors. I mean, have you ever seen The Witch?
I haven't.
Watch that. Put that on your watch list. It's a very. Witch, it's made Robert by the same director.
I mean, I
as
love this movie. So
yeah, made by the same director as this movie. It came out 4 or 5 years ago, and it is, you know, it's in the 1600s. It's got that 1600s language. Like I love how he writes dialogue, and it's very much of the times. He goes back and reads like written accounts from the time and really gets a grasp on what those people talked like. I mean, Willem Dafoe's character is so like wacky and out there, and I mean just but I love the dynamic between him and Pattinson. You know, he basically just works him to death, and he goes basically insane, and it's
so well cast too.
I mean, but in like I see how people like the casual moviegoer would see this and just be like, nah, like I don't get it. Like I don't get what is the point of this movie. Like I don't understand it. But like it really like there's so much deep mythology that you can go into to find out what, you know, a lot of the stuff is about. Yeah, but there's like Norse mythology or whatever, European mythology. But if you look at it at face value, it's just two guys stranded on an island going insane.
Yeah, like, and it's like it's speaking to like a time in history which is really not that long ago. But like the director and like just the film direction goes so in depth, like research wise. Like you're so right. Like just the way they talk, the things they say, like it's like an old English sounding that I feel like a lot of these movies that take place in the same time don't really do that due diligence of how people spoke then, and it just catches you.
Yes, like, it makes you so much. Yeah, it makes you so much more invested in it because you're like, this is like you feel like you're in that time period, and the black and white and everything about it just really sucks you into it, and I mean it's just it throws a lot at you. And it's creepy at times. A lot of the time, it's so very creepy. It's unsettling, but it's funny at times. I mean, there's fart jokes. There's just crazy dancing sequences.
There's some self pleasure.
Yes, throughout.
Some is an understatement.
Yeah, I mean it's a very weird movie, but I was so into every second of it, and. I've seen it twice. I watched it with my roommates. They actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought they were going to. Yeah. It's an excellent movie, and it definitely. I don't think it got enough love at the Oscar. I think Dafoe should have been nominated for this.
I totally agree.
Definitely the best. It's definitely the best performance of Robert Pattinson's career. Very excited to see his Batman. I loved the casting when it came out. And
my God.
And then after seeing this movie, it just solidified that this guy has the chops to do this. You know, he's a good actor, and I think. You know, if anybody would have been in those Twilight movies, I would have done that. Like, are you kidding me? I would have totally been in Twilight. Like, I don't hate on the guy for it. Like,
he's doing the right thing.
Yes.
Did you see Good Time?
I have not seen that yet. I heard it's really good.
Oh my God, just came out on Netflix. Fantastic movie.
I'll check that out.
It's kind of like most basic sense. It's a bank robbery that goes crazy wrong. But like his brother has like mental problems or something, and he does it with him, and it just like it's. Phenomenal movie. Same director as the Uncut Gems.
Okay, we'll talk about that. I need to see that then.
Yeah.
But Lighthouse, definitely check it out if you want to see something that you've never seen before, creepy, weird. If you're into that, check it out.
Definitely watch it.
Number 4, Martin Scorsese's The Irishman.
Great movie. I think that's a good position for it too.
Very hyped, and I think it lived up to it. I mean, I've seen the movie 3 times.
I think I've seen it twice.
And, I mean, it is just an amazing encapsulation of, especially 2 actors and 1 director that have worked together throughout their careers, that being Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro with Scorsese, but then also throwing Al Pacino into the mix, who's never worked in a Scorsese movie before, and having them all on screen, these amazing actors with this great script and this great story, and it just all worked so well. And I mean, for me, the reason it isn't number 1, it was at number 1 for a while. The reason I moved it down was just rewatchability. There's some other Scorsese movies that I would rather watch over this one.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, for being a 3-hour epic, it's everything that I really wanted from this movie. I mean, it's a great movie. I've talked about it on this podcast before, and, I mean, it's on Netflix, so if you want to check it out and you haven't, just watch it. I mean, definitely
worth the watch, especially if 3 hours sounds like a lot. Put it into parts. There's things you can find online how to do that.
And it's like I love how it dives into like the relationship between the mob and unions, because I mean in the 50s and 60s, like unions were a big part of America.
Yeah, I mean that's how Vegas like they really explain, amongst other things, like how Vegas was built, like how Vegas is what it is today. Like all that money is mob money.
Yeah.
And I mean Casino talks about that too a little bit.
But, yeah. I loved just the aspect of like how much political influence the mob had at that time, and it's really it's fascinating to see how much they had their hand in everything. I mean, Joe Pesci steals the movie with such a minimal performance.
Oh my God.
And a lot of people are complaining like, oh, why isn't he more animated? I'm like, because he's done that role a lot.
They're trying to people but like
this is so different for him, and I loved it. It was so cold and so collected. Like he always seemed like he was 2 steps ahead of every other character in the movie.
Oh my God. Everybody wants to say like, oh, it's another Goodfellas. It's another Casino.
Yeah.
Like yes, they're similar. Like they're the faces, they're the people. There's the Italian, there's the mob, there's that aspect. But like what Scorsese is doing in this movie is so different. Like what he's trying to say, I feel like it's speaking more just about like regret and like how
Totally.
a bad decision like can affect not only like the course of your life, but how you feel. Like like in the very end, they show like plot. Or what do you call it?
Spoiler
alert, not spoiler, but like in the end you see De Niro like at his absolute worst. Like you see him not only just old, but like decrepit, alone, depressed. Like it really just shows how the decisions he made earlier in his life just really ruined the rest of his
totally
life.
Talks about mortality in the sense of
my God, yeah, that's
everything
what I was looking
everything we do, like at the end of the day, you're just gonna end up in some nursing home playing bocce ball, like
and you don't want to be thinking about like your best friend you killed as you're sitting there alone. Like it's not.
And all of the things that you do it in the spur of the moment just to get by or to get up on something or to get over on someone. But then, like in the grand scheme of things, like if you really think about life, you're just gonna be an old, rotting person someday.
He was just so focused on like
dark.
The short term, like you don't do that to Russell. You don't say that to Russell. You do what Russell says. But like Russell tells you to do something, then you do it, and then you go to prison for the rest of your life or whatever. So I thought it was a great movie, but it definitely it has its good moments and its bad moments, but overall, great movie.
Number 3, Joker.
Okay. Let me just say that the second I walked out of that movie, I put $15 on Joaquin Phoenix to win Best Actor.
That was $15 well spent because that was a lock.
It was a lock. I immediately after. Luckily, it was a better line then. But I think that movie was. It got a bad rap. Like it's gonna bring up like it's a very like polarizing topic. You got the Joker. You got it's an anti-hero. Like there's no obvious hero, so people can say like maybe you're rooting for like this Joker character who like kind of speaks to the sentiment of like the lone estranged guy with problems who maybe like they were saying like the psychological makeup of the Joker or Arthur is kind of similar to someone who would be in like a mass shooting or something. So like that I feel like that got a lot of negative buzz towards it, and I mean it's an important thing to talk about, especially with what's going on in the country, but I thought it was such a good movie. It's almost like it's a character study. It's not like not a superhero movie.
No.
That's why
it's an art house film disguised as a superhero movie, like at face value. But like it's an art house movie. It's almost like an independent movie, like in that sense. Like it's just so. I mean, people complain that it was glorifying violence, and I think I talked about this on the podcast at some point, but I'm going to talk about it again. People talk about how it glorifies violence. I think it does the opposite. I think it shows, like, this is what people can become if, we don't really, look out for this kind of behavior and if we don't address it, like, because obviously you see this character spiral out of control, and it's just it's really just incredible to watch. The visuals, the direction. Todd Phillips, I mean, to go from directing the Hangover movies to this is just so amazing. I mean, what a great film for him to really propel his career to the next level. And I mean,
definitely.
Joaquin, what are you gonna say? I mean, that hasn't already been said. He was incredible in this movie. Just the perfect casting for this character. And I love the laugh, the Joker laugh.
He like, I loved it. It's such like an ode to the old school, and like I feel like there were so many ways that he could have done. Like he tried to do things differently, and that's why he did well.
Because like when he laughs, it's almost painful. Like he doesn't want to laugh, but like this, he has that.
It's
condition.
A problem.
It's
like,
a condition.
It's a condition, and it starts out as like something he's embarrassed about, but then. And people are like looking at him funny and judging him, and then it's like something that people are afraid of because he kind of turns it from like a weakness of his to a strength, and it's such a just seeing him go through that.
And as that's happening, you see his outlook on the world and on life just slowly become more and more nihilistic in the sense of like, this is all just a sham, like the whole life, like, and I think that's just so interesting to see in a movie like this. And I mean, you can compare it to Heath Ledger, but at the same time, Heath Ledger's Joker was amazing for the movie and and what they were trying to do with The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
But this is just something totally completely different. Movie, I mean, it's hard to compare the two. They're both obviously Oscar-winning performances in their own right.
But one's best, one's supporting. I feel like that's a big distinction, like in the movie that they were in.
Yeah, and I mean, Joaquin has the screen this entire movie. He commands the screen. He's amazing, and I mean, I get a lot of people didn't like this movie because they didn't really get it in the sense of like they were like we're looking for him to just go on a killing spree the whole movie, and it's more than that. It's about the character.
It's about his slow drive to madness.
Exactly.
Like. What do you think about the whole idea that that Arthur isn't the Joker? Have you heard about that? That there's a theory that like Arthur, the guy that the main character Joaquin Phoenix is not actually the Joker that we all like know from movies. That he is the spark that incites someone else to be the Joker.
mean, possibly.
I feel like there's no right answer, but I've always loved that idea.
That door is not closed. I mean, you could totally go that route.
But I feel like it's a great ending in that there's no answer.
Yeah,
answer.
And I love the movie. I'm definitely it's definitely very rewatchable to me. I love these kind of really dark movies. Like I love Taxi Driver. This definitely wears its influences on its sleeve, and I guess you could say that's as a complaint. But for me, I was like, this is the vibe they're going for. So,
and the comedian,
and you got De Niro in there. So and Scorsese helped produce this movie. Just really good stuff. I loved it.
Can't go wrong.
Number 2, a very surprising number 2. Uncut Gems.
Okay. I'm just curious to hear what number 1 is now. But
I absolutely loved this movie, and I watched it the other day again, just because it was fighting. It was fighting to get into the top 5, and I saw it again. I'm like, this has got to be. What an absolute robbery this movie was, not being nominated for Best Picture, Best Editing, Best Sound Mixing, none of that. It wasn't nominated for anything. But the biggest robbery was Adam Sandler not being nominated for Best Actor. I don't think he should have won, but I think he should have been over an Antonio Banderas or over a Jonathan Pryce from The Two Popes. I thought this performance was the best of his career.
I agree.
From a movie that is so raw in its delivery. I mean, I love the direction, and that's why I want to check out Good Time, like you said, the directors of that.
The Safdie brothers.
The Safdie brothers, yes.
Yeah.
I want to see that because the way they direct this movie is so hectic, so frantic. You feel like you're on 500 milligrams of Adderall. You know?
Oh my, no, yeah, I love that, like, the pace of the movie. It's like it's a thriller almost, even though like there's not that much like thrilling things going on. It's just like the pace of it, like what's going on in his life.
Yes, and I love the scenes where he's just like in the jewelry store and like in these populated areas, and you just hear all these voices like talking over each other, because like that's how it is when you're in that kind of environment. Yeah. Everybody is trying to talk over each other. Everybody is trying to talk at the same time, and it's just like it adds to the hecticness of the movie.
Oh, definitely. I mean,
and I love like the music is great. I mean, Kevin Garnett is good in the movie.
He's actually really good in the movie.
Yes, and
he did a good job.
Yeah, I love the weekend stuff. I mean, Sandler, his character is such an horrible person, but you can't help but root for him because he's Adam Sandler.
Yep.
And that's what I love. That's why I love the casting. I'm like, what a perfect casting, because this is such a scummy individual, and you know it, but you're just like, you can't help but want him to succeed because he's Adam Sandler.
And I feel like it speaks to like the person he's pretending to be. Like, it's such a scummy person, but at the same time, like, you want him to like you, you know? Yeah. Like, it's a weird, like, you feel like, you feel an attachment towards him, even though it's very obvious that he's like the scum of the earth.
Right. But I love Sandler in this movie. I mean, this is my favorite Adam Sandler movie of all time now. Like,
wow.
I can honestly say that. Like, I mean, because I love the comedies. I love Happy Gilmore and all that. Those are very fun movies. I grew up on them totally. But this is just a whole nother level, especially at the stage in his career where he was pretty much selling out to Netflix and just making these terrible, terrible comedies. The Ridiculous Six and the Jennifer Aniston one on the boat and, whatever. All the other terrible movies that he had been making and just collecting a paycheck. And you know what? It's amazing that he came through and, decided, I'm going to show people I can act. Because, like, he can act. If you've ever seen Punch Drunk Love, put that on your watch list. It's a Paul Thomas Anderson movie with Adam Sandler in it, and it's really good. Yeah, and it's a really good movie. Bizarre, but really good, and Sandler's good in it. So it was cool to see him kind of go back to this idea of becoming an actor and playing this role that just was perfect. And everything, all the stars aligned. This one, I was juggling to put it number one. I was trying so hard. Yeah. But there was just one movie that I've seen it twice, and I'll see it probably a million more times, and that is my number one movie of 2019.
Drum roll.
Yep. The soon-to-be classic Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay. I am totally content with that at number one. I feel like it takes more than one time watching it, though.
Yes.
Like,
I would. This was at like number 6 or 7 before I saw it again. And as soon as I saw it again, I put it right at number one.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was really juggling Uncut Gems Joker in this one. But this one stood out to me as just the movie I think is the most rewatchable of the three. Even though Uncut Gems is very much, like, very, very, very close. Yeah. But this one, just for me, I loved it. And I think it has to do with the acting, the finale, the whole scope of this movie, because a lot of Tarantino's movies this is not a very typical Tarantino movie. A lot of his movies have a lot of like high drama, high action, intense violence and all that, and you get some of that, but this movie just really takes a deep breath and lets you just enjoy these actors.
You're just so encapsulated and relaxed. Like, it's light, but there's something coming, but you're just loving every minute.
Yeah, it's very euphoric, and you're just sitting back, and you don't have to think too much with this movie. You just throw it on, and that's why I think I can watch this. Like, but if you want to, you can pay attention to the amazing dialogue that Tarantino brings on every movie, and obviously DiCaprio and Brad Pitt's Oscar-winning performance. Are amazing, well deserved, and I mean, just everything. The script, the shots of 1960s LA, such a cool visual. The Manson stuff is really interesting. I mean, and I do have my complaints with the movie. I think Margot Robbie, her character is a little bit Sharon Tate. Like, I felt like she could have been given more to do, but from a visual standpoint, from just watching movies, I love this thing, man, and I think Tarantino had a lot of fun making this movie. You can tell. Yeah,
he did a great job with it. I think that the reason why I said you have to see it twice is because if you're a big Tarantino guy, like, there's different audiences he's appealing to.
And I am. That's probably why I put this at number one.
And I'm a big Tarantino guy too, but just like you, first time I watched it, I'm like, that's good. But the entire time, I'm kind of thinking, I'm like, all right, like I've seen all of his movies, and I know if it's historical and it's relating to violence, like Inglourious Bastards or Django Unchained, like there's gonna be some like action in there. You know what I mean? Like Manson family, like Manson family did a couple murders. People don't really know that, so like there's violence coming in. But like, and you're just waiting for it. So for me, like the first time I watched, entire time I'm watching, I'm like, when is Sharon Tate gonna bite the bullet? When is this gonna happen? And I feel like it waits till the absolute end, and then in like the very end, it just explodes, and I'm like, wow, he totally did that just to mess with me, and I didn't love that. And then I watched it again, having like knowing what's coming, not expecting anything, just like you said, just sitting back and enjoying it. It is such a great movie.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with you on that. Like the ending kind of threw me for a loop, but like he did the same thing in Inglourious Bastards where he rewrote history in a way. Like, you know, the way Hitler is killed in that movie and all of that was so cool to watch, just seeing it. And I think with this, it's the same kind of idea. Like, you know that these horrible murders happened, but like it's so cool to just see a visual representation of what would happen if they would have went to the wrong place and stumbled and messed with the wrong drugged up idiots, you know?
I love that. I mean, like Tarantino's done that in a couple of his movies. I love Oliver Stone. He's done that in a couple of his movies. Like, have you ever seen JFK?
I have not seen that, no.
Fantastic movie. It's not about JFK. It's about the assassination of JFK and the trial after. But it's pretty much like not what happened, what the director thinks happened in JFK's assassination.
Yeah.
So like it's kind of like
it's an interpretation.
It's an interpretation, but I feel like that's I feel like we've touched about this earlier in the podcast a little too. Like some stories, when you're making a movie about a true story, the story doesn't fit well in movies. Like you have to kind of make it fit. You know what I mean? You have to make it work, and sometimes that you have to change the details a little bit. And I feel like that's more just making it like taking it and making it fit better in the movie or the TV, whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think like the thing of this isn't even as much an interpretation as this. Like, I mean, just look at the title, "Once Upon a Time in Hollywood."
It's a
like
story.
It's a fairy tale.
Yeah,
like, and that's why like people are all up in arms about the Bruce Lee scene. Like, and when in theaters, how I kind of interpret it as is like when you see Brad Pitt, he's standing on the roof, it's almost like what he envisioned actually happened.
Yeah, like, it could have not happened at all.
Like I think it's like it's almost like what he wanted to happen or convinced himself happened.
Yeah.
You know, with him throwing Bruce Lee on the car and Bruce Lee being this like cocky asshole.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think it was Tarantino saying that Bruce Lee was like this. I think Tarantino was saying this is what the character Cliff thinks Bruce Lee was like.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I like that whole aspect. It's a fairy tale. Like at its core, it's, you know, it's not real, but like I love that about it. Like that it doesn't take itself too seriously. Yeah, but and it's like it's a very different movie for Tarantino to make. But I loved it. I love the performances. I love pretty much everything about it. So yeah, that's my top 10. Any that I missed that you had on your list that I didn't see?
Yes, I do.
Or didn't add?
Okay, yes, I have right now. So I loved your list. Very close. There's really, let me see. All right, so yeah, there's just two. The two. So we had very similar movies, but mine are not in order. So these are just another two honorable mentions that from this year. First is A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Oh, I just recently saw this.
You just saw that?
Yeah, I thought it was good.
I thought it was a great movie because it's like. Another thing, true story. They could have just said, like, Mr. Rogers' life. But no, It's like a snapshot of a period in his life. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's so good. Rather than just, like, talk about Mr. Rogers and how great of a person he is, like, it's from the perspective of this pessimistic reporter who kind of thinks that there's no way Mr. Rogers acts like this in real life. Like,
it's a facade.
It's a facade. And he really, like, just kind of figures out that no, like he is actually this nice, warm person. Like that's who he is,
Yeah.
and it's just such a great way to.
Do you think Hanks should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor for the Mr. Rogers movie?
I don't, just because his role in the movie wasn't as significant. Like he's a big character in it. Like he's kind of but he's not the main character. Like the main character is the reporter.
Yeah,
and it's like they don't really talk about Mr. Rogers' personal life, like anything that he struggled with.
Yeah.
It's really Mr. Rogers helping this random reporter.
Yeah.
So
no, yeah, I get that argument. But for me, I mean, I thought the nomination was a little gratuitous, but I mean, Hanks deserved to be nominated. I mean, he was fantastic as Mr. Rogers. I personally, I'm not that familiar with Mr. Rogers. I think a little bit before my time, but
yeah.
you know, I respected the performance, and the movie was good. I thought it was sweet and was worth watching for sure. And then what was the other one?
The other one was Honey Boy.
Never seen this though.
Didn't see Honey Boy.
No.
Wow. All right.
I've heard good things.
Gotta watch Honey Boy. So I'll give you like a quick elevator pitch. Shia LaBeouf wrote this movie about himself and his life, and he wrote it in rehab. So he was in court-ordered rehab because he got arrested, and he wrote this. And I didn't know anything about this. I don't know how much you know about the movie itself, but it's Shia LaBeouf playing his dad, and there's a kid actor playing Shia LaBeouf when he's like 13, and it takes place like right around like even Stevens Hole's time. So like late 90s, early 2000s, and pretty much his dad was like a failing circus clown pretty much, and when Shia LaBeouf becomes famous, his dad just kind of takes him to LA and says like, I'm here to help you, but he's really like taking Shia's money and just going around and wasting it and living and doing whatever he wants. So it's like it's a crazy thing. Like when you see like successful child actor like Shia LaBeouf, like big name, been around forever, but like he had a very difficult early life. Like they're living in a disgusting motel while he's on like a Disney Channel show. So it's a very cool story, and just watching like Shia LaBeouf, who was like about to drop off the face of the earth. The story of how he wrote this is crazy. He was in rehab, sent it to Mel Gibson because he wanted Mel Gibson to play his dad, and Mel Gibson's like, no, I'll send it to a bunch of studios and just make it and play your dad. And that's kind of how that made.
It's been a good year for him too. I saw Peanut Butter Falcon, and I liked that.
Was great.
I thought that was a good, fun little movie. I enjoyed that one.
He's kind of diversifying.
Yeah, he's a good actor. He is.
He's a good actor.
And I think once he gets a role that he can really sink his teeth into, I think he could really like maybe get some Oscar buzz if he pulls it off. I mean,
definitely.
He's definitely got the skills for it. So
no question.
But yeah, I mean, thanks for coming on. This has been a lot of fun.
Of course, man.
I love talking movies.
Love talking movies. Always.
Yeah, and thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, TJ.
Yeah, no problem. You'll be on soon again. And, you know, remember, 5 stars. We want to get to 100 ratings, so do that.
Yeah, support the TJ Martino podcast.
Support the TJ Martino podcast. Yeah, and, you know, follow me on social media. Anything you want to plug social media-wise? Anything, you know?
Buck Laundry, LLC, the premier laundry student-run organization. If you're looking for some laundry pickup and delivery, I run the service. It's a great service just for not having to do your own laundry.
Yes.
So
for Ohio State students only.
Ohio State students only.
Sorry, international listeners.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's only for Columbus, Ohio. But if anyone's interested, Buck Laundry.
Yeah, Buck Laundry. You need your laundry done. Personally, yeah, laundry sucks. So definitely hit up Buck Laundry. And yeah, thanks for coming on. This has been great.
Yeah,
and you know how it is. Subscribe, do all that stuff. Rate, get me to 100 ratings. Next time I record, I better be at 100. Probably won't be, but whatever. Drop a comment, do all that stuff. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, all that stuff.
He's looking to hear from you.
Yeah, hear from me. Drop your lists too. Use hashtag TJPod. I just came up with that the other day.
Love that.
Use the hashtag TJPod and hit me up with your lists. Hit me up with any complaints or, you know, agreements, whatever. Thanks for listening, and let the beat drop.